Good afternoon and welcome back to another session. And today we'd like to talk about another controversial topic. The World Cup isn't just a game, it's a global religion. And I'm sure many people don't like to hear this because we're so glued and addicted to sports and entertainment that sometimes we don't stop to question really what are we watching and why are we so much, tied up with these things. These are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. And why do we do some of the things that we do? Why do we eat some of the foods that we eat? A lot of times, people, because they're so addicted to what they eat, to what they watch, right? To what they read, they don't want to think why we do what we do. Every 4 years, the world stops, cities go silent, streets empty, hearts race. Billions of people, different languages, cultures, beliefs, all focused on one thing. Yeah, how is that they have allowed many people of different languages and cultures and beliefs to focus on sports, a game, a match, a ball, crossing a line? But what if this isn't just sport? What if the World Cup is the closest thing we have to a global religion? And that's something we need to ask ourselves because when you look at it, it's just a ball going through a goal, and people get so much revved up. And there are people who bet on these things, and sometimes they lose friendships because of their bets and all of what we do, the crazy things that we do during these sports matches. And people think that the investment is worth it, right? And they're going to spend dollars to go to these stadium or stadia to watch these football matches, these soccer matches, if you will. The first FIFA World Cup was held in 1930 in Uruguay. Only 13 teams competed. No global spectacle, no billion viewers. But even then, something was different. Football wasn't just entertainment, it was identity. And for those of you who don't know, when we talk about football, it is what Americans call soccer. But football is really football. I don't know why Americans call it soccer because that is what you use the foot to kick the ball. Nations weren't just playing, they were representing pride, history, power. As the tournament grew, 1950, 1970, 1998, 2010, so did its emotional weight. Today, over 5 billion people engage with the World Cup. That's more than any single religion gathers at one time. This isn't just about popularity, it's collective devotion. So you're actually there and you're praising your teams who are really your idols, the people, the personalities, all of these players that you adore, they are people that you worship. They are idols. And we've got to be very, very concerned about that because we thought that we should not have any idols. Talk about that. But let's go back. There is a rather concerning article that was, here about the state of the nation of America. The Washington Stand State of the Bible report highlights Americans' biblical illiteracy. Now, this is a nation that was founded on Christian principles, right? Now, listen to what it says here. The vast majority of Americans suffer from critical biblical illiteracy. Not only biblical illiteracy, but critical biblical illiteracy, meaning that they don't know anything or if anything, about the Bible. According to the American Bible Society's 2026 State of the Bible, that's SOTB report, only 17% of Americans told posters that they have read the entire Bible, while 48% claim to have read about half or more. Sadly, this widespread Bible ignorance is largely due to a lack of trying. The size and complexity of Scripture may intimidate people from ever cracking the cover, yet biblical muscles, like physical muscles, are best developed through small amounts of exercise every day. So, when asked in the January 2026 SOTB survey, how much of the Bible have you read? only 17% of Americans said they had read the entire Bible, while another 17% said they had read most. 14% said about half, and 35% said a little, 10% said none, and 7% said they were not sure. And this is in 2026. Right? For starters, it's a sad commentary on contemporary American society that this is even a meaningful poll question. There was a time when nearly all Americans had read the Bible. Even professing non-Christians could intelligently discuss Christian teaching and deploy biblical imagery, even if they rejected the Bible's central message of obedience and faith. And by the way, Shakespeare writings and all of these great writers, classical writers that we studied in school, were all influenced by the Bible, many of whom did not believe in it because they had their other belief system. But the fact of the matter is that they got their understanding and the quality, the caliber of English that they wrote, the imageries that they used, the metaphors and all of that, the similes and all of the literary devices that we see in literature came from the Bible. Today, many people who fill a pew on Sunday morning know less about scripture than likely atheist Thomas Paine, right? And if you read, for example, W.E. Du Bois, Black Reconstruction, you will see that his entire chapters were devoted to, biblical chapters, biblical themes, I should say. He surrounded the entire book around biblical themes because he understood to some extent the Bible. He might not have been a biblical scholar. He might not have understood profoundly the teachings of the Bible, but he understood as an intelligent man the themes of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Many of our young people do not know. And we pride ourselves in having them know about sports and all of these entertainers. And yeah, they know more about these people. In fact, most American young people know more about sports personalities and entertainment than they know the Ten Commandments. Now, if they don't know the Ten Commandments, how are they going to live and abide by moral standards? Okay, that is something that we have to ask ourselves. But many people don't want to confront these difficult questions because you're so much in the narration of sports. Every religion has sacred spaces. In football, it is the stadium. Cathedral-like structures, pilgrimages of fans, people dressed in colors, chanting in unison. Every religion has rituals. In football, anthems, jerseys, match day routines, superstitions. Every religion has symbols, flags, crests, numbers, legends. And every religion has moments of transcendence when thousands or millions feel the same emotion at once. That eruption, when a goal is scored, it's not just excitement, it's shared emotional release on a massive scale. And you really wonder. And there is something here. This professor is asking some critical question in this video. I hope that I can share this with you and you will be able to learn something. Hopefully you also hear. I'm having a little challenge with my computer, so hopefully the sound. But there are also scripts on on the video. So if you don't hear it, you will be able to see the transcript of the words on the screen. So let's get to what he's suggesting here. Let me see if I could get the screen to play. Yeah. Right, turn it off again. And it makes you ask the question, is this brainwashing? Because even in religion, people don't often bond, I'm a Seventh Adventist or those people who are Baptists, people don't actually bond with people who they don't have common interest, with. So, well, they share common bonds and common values, I should say, right? Because even the church, you have, devils, right? And people don't often bond with those that they don't, and even if they're not devils, but sports actually allow us to unite with people with whom we do not share common values and we do not normally bond with. How does that happen? Is this a sort of, as I suggested, brainwashing? These are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves. We can't just always just look at society as being normal, because a lot of things that we think are normal are just not normal, and that is what the program here is about. And education, rather, should be to challenge the status quo and to say, are we really doing things that we should be doing? Just like the foods we eat oftentimes might not be the best food for us. But we grew up on that and we think that is how we should have breakfast and this should be the type of breakfast to have, lunch and dinner, supper, and it might not be so. But we are already brainwashed. But we have to challenge ourselves, especially when these things are not healthy for society. So we have the players in these sports matches. We have the Messi, we have Ronaldo, we have Pelé, and we also have Maradona. Now, they're not just athletes, they're elevated, idolized, almost mythologized. That's how we do them. We make them behave as if they're gods. People wear their names, defend them, worship their greatness. People want to even worship the clothes. Can you imagine somebody has just played a match and you want them to give you their shorts and wow. Children grow up wanting to become them. In ancient cultures, heroes became legends. Today, footballers fill that same place. And of course, the basketballers and the baseballers. Not gods, but close enough in the eyes of millions. And I would say that they're gods. If your entire world is centered on these athletes, just kicking a ball or throwing a ball, something is definitely wrong with the mind. Something is definitely wrong with the mind. And is that the reason for which we are in the crisis that we are actually suffering now? And the global elites are very much happy to push sports and entertainment and allow us to be entertained forever. Bread and circus, as the Roman Empire would call it. The people then would have the bread and the circus, and they would have lots of fun until the empire collapsed right before their eyes. Now, let's talk about the goal. On paper, it's simple. A ball crosses a line. But emotionally, it feels like something far bigger. Tension builds, time slows, then release, screams, tears, joy, collapse. It's almost ritualistic, like a moment where energy explodes out of a crowd all at once. Not for spirits, but it taps into something deeply human or a need for meaning, release, and shared experience. So, what does this mean? It doesn't mean football is literally a religion. Well, I would say that it is in some cases. It's literally a secular religion, I would say. But it shows something important. Humans will always seek belonging, identity, ritual, and moments that feel bigger than themselves. And that is the role that religion plays, the supernatural plays, that you are tapping into a source that you think is bigger than you. So you find that even atheists, when things begin to collapse around them, when the world begins to collapse, they turn to a supernatural force, energy, being. In a world where traditional structures are fading, events like the World Cup step in to fill that space or the void that is in them. For 90 minutes, nothing else matters. And for billions, that feeling is real. So the next time you watch the World Cup or a baseball game or what do you call it, the Olympics, look beyond the game. And I would encourage people also to read up on the history of sports or the particular sports that you might like. How did it come about? And is it really what it seems or what it appears to be? Because, oftentimes I've told you, we do not often get what you see, rather, is not what you get. What you see is not what you get. Watch the crowd, the rituals, the emotion, and ask yourself, is this just football? Is this just the Olympics, athletics, track and field? Or is it something much deeper? I think many of us are going to be surprised if we engage, if we go into the deep dive into these things, where they're coming from, and we begin to use our critical thinking skills, then we're going to see that it's much bigger than just a game. And that is why the elites invest billions of dollars to distract you and to entertain you so that you will never focus on the things that really matter. Now, I'm not a fanatic, so I'm not suggesting that you can't have games to entertain yourselves, but this sort of global sort of investment, something that you have to really concern yourselves about. And why are the global elites investing billions of dollars in such a venture? And when you read up on what some of these guys go through, the players, right? And the sort of sacrifices that are made and what they have to do to become the idols that you have made them into, then you are going to find it to be despicable. Okay? And even the great professor Orlando Patterson, in his book, um, the Slavery and Social Debt and Death, Slavery and Social Death, not death, but slavery and social death, did ask the question, can we compare sports to slavery? When he looked at the whole social dynamics of the sports game and what these athletes have to do, what they have to endure, is it another form of slavery? and I'll leave you to answer. I'm going to leave you to answer that question. I'm not going to, stir up, as it were, the ants' nest, right? So begin to think now, because thinking is very important if you want to free yourselves from mental slavery. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe so that we can have other in-depth. And if you want, we can have a live discussion on this. It's also a very important topic, and it could make a very interesting live, maybe with a guest too, to see if we can explore why, sports can be considered a secular religion. So please say yes in the comment section if you want a live on this very important topic. Thank you so much for joining.